Hi, this is a review for the Keysight InfiniVision msox3034t. This is a very impressive piece of equipment. There's a really big price tag associated with it as well, but it comes with a few really great features that the high-end analog engineer, digital engineer, electronics engineer would really appreciate. This I am going to be comparing with the Rohde & Schwarz RTB2K4, which is essentially a much cheaper alternative. I wouldn't say really an alternative. It has its own pros, but the question here is, does the msox3034 justify the high price tag? And in some cases it really does, but this is what we're going to talk about. Let's start with boot up time. Yes, it's slower than the other scope that I have. Beyond that, it's not a deal breaker, since I don't really switch it on off as much. But once it's on a bench, you turn it on, it kind of stays on, and you're kind of doing your measurements. It doesn't really affect the boot time. Really doesn't affect them any of my decisions. Looking at the scope itself, the front panel, there's a horizontal controls. The vertical controls, this is something I really missed with the Rohde & Schwarz, which has just one, and you have a button that switches between channel 1 to channel 4. That scope's up here. Then there is the triggering menu, which is this teeny tiny 4-button little thing, which in most cases is pretty much enough, though I would have appreciated some more dedicated buttons. We'll get into that in a second. There is, of course, the acquisition menu. It's called a waveform menu here. There is, of course, the other tools, and this is something I'm not really using a lot, and the customary trigger and stop button. Right, so not a lot of controls up here. I would have appreciated a little more color here, signifying, okay, this is one part, this is 2, 3. There's not a lot of clear demarcation between, oh, this is the trigger menu, this is the tools menu, the measurement. You have to kind of get used to it, and you have to find it. There's, of course, the touch button, which allows you to disable touch. If you're not really that person, you attach a wireless mouse to your oscilloscope, and you can do that. I'm pretty sure this thing runs Windows. The serial button here, the serial decode's way down here, which is weird. I would have, it's kind of weird that they have fit these 3 buttons in there. Poor choice, in my opinion. And then there's this blank space, which I really don't understand. The layout of this control panel here could have been a little better. Looking at the touchscreen itself, the touch menus are something I really don't like. The Rohde & Schwarz has a menu that's right in this corner, and it says menu. In the case of the Keysight, the menu is right up here. I just click here, and that's where all the menu stuff's off of. That's really not obvious, and there's a bunch of these buttons that that may not have a lot of these buttons down here. They don't really have a lot of use, because the buttons that pop up on the screen, for example, let me go into the help menu. These are pretty big, so touching this button versus this button, I can press the touch button, whereas if I go here, having a little I can probably just go, oh no, I can't. It's confusing. The menu itself is kind of like, oh yeah, the touch here, touch there. It's kind of not the best experience, especially for it's turned to German now. Now I can do that, click that, and so I would have appreciated these buttons on the side. The GUI, it's not a lot of shades of colors. I think 8-bit color, I guess it's a waste of a beautiful display. Make it better, Keysight. Going into getting started, you should be able to see a bunch of options, training signals, just generate them. Demos would automatically set up your scope instead of with training signals. You're kind of tweaking and customizing the controls yourself. You can of course access some of the menus like the trigger menu, and you get those little 3 buttons there. What source, what's the type, and if you go into the acquire menu, there's what acquire menu. I usually select normal, and of course there's the display menu, turn off persistence, which is the standard setting. I enable persistence because originally scopes had a little bit of persistence there. You could control that. There's also, for example, me wanting to, I want to change this to normal mode to auto mode. There's a mode coupling button. There's other stuff that pops up. So some buttons, they got it right. Some buttons, well, they have few buttons. So just demarking types of menus and creating a little bit of better partitioning between the buttons. Just the user interface could have been better. The touch menus could have been much better. But I kind of guess that the documentation engine put a lot of work into creating the manuals and stuff, so they won't really change a lot of to it. Going into let's go into the trigger menu, for example. There's just trigger, and then there's zone, which is something really awesome. You can have 2 zones, I guess. So one is intersect. The types of zone is intersect and must not intersect. Let's create for example, let's create a zone, and I can move this to a location, and there we go. It'll trigger only the pulses with that'll, of course, the zones, like if you trigger here on the rising edge and then also here, so it's a secondary trigger system. I really appreciate that as well as the advanced triggering. For example, come on, touchy. So select from either one, go into trigger. The type of triggers is, hold on, come on, there we go. The types of triggers includes the edge, then edge, pulse width, pattern, especially these ones down here. There is the option to do runt pulses and pulse width. Where's the pulse width? It was somewhere out here. Pulse width. So pulse width is if you want to find a really short pulse within a long set of pulses. Of course, you have to set it up to be bigger than or less than, or that kind of stuff. But it's really useful. The trigger system on the key side is especially something that takes the cake. It really makes for ease of use in specialized scenarios. Of course, the 1 million waveforms per second is an excellent feature, but these 2 triggers by zone and the types of triggers set to these different types, that's really very useful in a lot of situations. I'll demonstrate that in another video. Overall, the scope's very well balanced. It's a beefy unit. It feels very well built. It has a lot of features. It also has, of course, the function generator. It's a multiple things in a box kind of a thing. So you can create. Let me touch that. There we go. So you can generate these types of functions. So technically it acts like a function generator as well. You've got, of course, the digital multimeter counter, all that stuff, and the oscilloscope, of course. So lots of great features in a small little bundle. 5 gigasamples per second, meaning you really have a lot of resolution on the x-axis. So capturing those little pesky signals becomes easier. In the next video, I'll be talking about the triggering and capturing a glitch. I've done a little demo on that, and hopefully you'll have a better idea. I'll also be doing a face-to-face comparison with the Rode and Schwarz. So thanks for watching, and look out for the next video.